They say near-death changes you. They don't tell you it rips you apart first. Strips you down to the wreckage you spent a lifetime pretending wasn't there. I had money, power, a name people whispered with envy, and none of it mattered the night I should have died. I always thought death would come loud. A gunshot, an explosion, a final roar. Turns out it's quieter, like the world forgetting you in slow motion. I don't even remember the impact, just the glass shattering. A bright, crystalline sound, almost musical, and the taste of blood in my mouth. Airbags punched me hard enough to rattle my teeth. Somewhere, the Lamborghini spun out like a drunk ballerina across the asphalt. Skidding, screeching, silence, and then black, flickers, snippets. The way your mind plays memories when it thinks you're clocking out for good. My father, furious at me over a missed investment meeting. My assistant, trembling as I fired her for a typo. The homeless guy outside my high-rise, whose cup I swatted aside like he was a stray dog. Faces, moments, shame painted over them all, thick and clumsy. The paramedics' voices were the next thing I heard, way off in the distance. Tinny, muted, like they were underwater. Male, late 30s, severe trauma. We need extraction now. Sirens clawed through the night. Lights stuttered against my eyelids. I tried to speak, to say something, to apologize, maybe, but my throat was thick with copper-tasting blood, and the world dragged me under again. I woke up 3 days later in a sterile hospital room that smelled like bleach and boiled sadness. Machines beeped around me in steady rhythms, like mechanical priests chanting over a dying sinner. My body was broken, cracked ribs, punctured lung, concussion, arm twisted into a fiberglass cage. I was, for the first time in my golden, perfect life, fragile. The nurse, an older woman with deep lines and kinder eyes, noticed me blinking. "Well, look who's finally decided to stick around," she said, voice warm but worn thin by years of similar scenes. I wanted to ask for my phone, my lawyer, my publicist, but all I could whisper was, "Water." She helped me sip through a straw. Her hands were steady, practiced. She'd done this 1,000 times, probably for 1,000 nobodies. Now she was doing it for a guy who used to think valet parking was a human right. Pathetic, isn't it? How quickly the walls of your kingdom crumble when you stop being able to lift your own damn fork. Later that night, when the ward quieted down and the dark pressed against the windows like a weight, a thought lodged itself in my cracked, rattled brain. You should have died. And for the first time, I didn't feel terror at that thought. I felt regret. Over the next few days, the doctors spoke in low, serious tones. Broken bones would heal. The head injury, that was trickier. Memory lapses, mood swings, personality changes. All on the menu. "You're lucky to be alive," one said, scribbling on a chart without even glancing at me. Lucky. If luck looked like a morphine drip and a diaper change, sure. Jackpot. I stared at the ceiling a lot, tracing cracks that spiderwebbed out like little roadmaps. Each split felt like a different path I never took. Each shadow another mistake I couldn't undo. I wasn't just rich before the accident. I was obscene. My net worth was whispered about in boardrooms, scrawled across Forbes articles, dissected by jealous classmates at reunions. Mansions, yachts, watches more expensive than most people's first homes. I had it all, and I was a bastard about it. I didn't just step over people. I pushed them down to stay higher. But lying there, body stitched up and spirit frayed to threads, none of it mattered. Not the cars, not the private jets, not even the trophy girlfriend who hadn't bothered to visit once. Funny how mortality strips everything fake right off you, like acid on cheap gold plating. It happened on the 7th night. A storm rolled over the city, snarling and spitting rain against the glass. Couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe right either. The broken ribs made sure of that. Somewhere down the hall, a patient screamed in their sleep. Somewhere else, a machine flatlined. I pressed the call button. The nurse didn't come. Instead, it was a janitor, this wiry guy in a sagging uniform, pushing a mop like it was a punishment. His face lit up when he saw me awake. "You need something, boss?" he asked, voice a little too loud in the hush. "Boss." Reflexively, my old self wanted to snap at him for the noise, for being less. But that man, the cold one, the king in the penthouse, had died on the side of the road already. All that was left was a broken skeleton of regret, trying to figure out how to walk again. Water, I rasped. The janitor nodded, moved quick, faster than he needed to. When he handed me the cup, our hands brushed. His skin was rough, real, the kind of calluses you get from building things, not tearing them down. Thanks, I said, hoarse but meaning it. He blinked like I'd slapped him. Probably wasn't used to gratitude. And in that flickering, rain-beaten window of a moment, something in me shifted. Something cracked wider than any bone. I wasn't supposed to survive that crash. So maybe, just maybe, I was supposed to do something better with the life I'd stolen back. They let me out of the hospital 2 weeks later. Well, let is generous. More like, they ran out of reasons to keep me there that didn't sound like, "We're scared you'll sue us." I left with a limp, a sling, and a medical bill that could have bought a small country. Didn't matter. Money still poured from accounts I'd forgotten I had. It came easy. Too easy. Like oxygen for someone who never learned what choking felt like. The crash had fractured something deeper than my ribs, though. It had splintered the mirror I'd been staring into for 38 smug, empty years. The first thing I did after they wheeled me out? I went looking for the janitor. Didn't know why. Didn't know what I planned to say. I just knew that when the world cracked open, his was the first real face I saw. The hospital cafeteria was bleak. Gray walls. Grayer food. I found him on a battered plastic chair, eating what looked like meatloaf that had lost a fight. He saw me hobbling toward him and stiffened like he expected trouble. I don't blame him. Guys like me didn't wander into break rooms unless they were lost or looking for someone to yell at. "Hey," I said, clearing my throat. He nodded, guarded. "Sir." God, that word burned now. "I never got your name," I said. He blinked. "Danny." I sat down across from him. Slowly. My body still moved like broken furniture. "Danny," I said, rolling the name around like it was something sacred. "You saved me that night." He shrugged. "I just got you some water, boss." "You showed up when no one else did," I said. He stared at me, fork halfway to his mouth. Like he was trying to decide if this was a setup. A joke. Some rich guy stunt. "You doing okay?" he asked, cautious. I laughed, but it came out cracked and ugly. "Define okay." Danny grinned, just a little. First real smile I'd seen in weeks. Something about that smile made my next words tumble out before I could second-guess myself. "I want to help you." He froze, fork clattering against the tray. "Help me," he repeated, like I'd said I wanted to adopt him. I nodded. "Look, I've got resources. Money. Connections. Whatever you need. School? A house? You name it." He stared at me for a long, uncomfortable minute. I felt it then, the old version of me itching under the skin, wanting to fix someone with a checkbook. Danny shook his head slowly. "Appreciate it, boss. I really do. But I don't need charity." I blinked. That wasn't how this was supposed to go. "You sure?" I asked, bewildered. He smiled again, sadder this time. "Some things you gotta earn yourself. Otherwise, they don't stick." And just like that, he picked up his tray and walked away, leaving me sitting there with my heart dangling loose like a broken watch. That night, I went home to the penthouse. Or tried to. The place didn't feel like mine anymore. The marble floors echoed under my cheap hospital crutches. The rooms yawned wide and cold like tombs built for a king who never showed up. I wandered from room to room. Past the imported Italian furniture. Past the $10,000 chandelier. Past the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city that didn't give a damn if I lived or died. In the bedroom, I found a note on the dresser. 2 sentences written in the looping, perfumed handwriting of my now ex-girlfriend. "Call me when you're back to normal." I laughed so hard I had to sit down before my ribs split open again. Back to normal. As if that version of me still existed somewhere. As if normal was something you could glue back together after you watched your own mortality splatter across a highway at 90 miles per hour. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat by the window watching the city blink and throb under the rain. And I thought about Danny. About the nurse. About all the people I'd pretended didn't exist. It wasn't enough to throw money at the problem. I needed to get my hands dirty. The next morning, I started small. Baby steps. Or maybe penance. I went to a diner 3 blocks from my penthouse. One of those greasy spoons where the napkins are waxy and the coffee could double as engine oil. I ordered breakfast. Paid for it. And then, before leaving, I slipped a $500 tip under the chipped ceramic plate. The waitress, early 50s, hair tired from too many shifts, sneakers worn flat, picked it up and looked around like she expected cameras to pop out. She caught my eye through the window. I smiled and gave a little nod. Her face crumpled. Not big. Not loud. Just a tiny, startled collapse like she was afraid to believe it. It was a good moment. It felt almost like breathing again. But good moments don't erase decades of selfishness. They don't rewrite the ledger in one clean swipe. They just buy you a little more time to figure out how to actually live. The plan formed slowly. Sloppily. Like a drunk building a house out of matchsticks. I'd sell the penthouse, the yacht, the cars, liquidate everything that screamed empty in 12 different languages. And then, I'd start giving it away. Not the cold way I used to. No tax shelters. No photo ops. No backpats at charity balls. Real help. Quiet help. The kind that didn't expect a thank you card. The kind that felt like something other than dying in slow motion. Selling the penthouse was easier than I thought. All it took was one call, one board broker, and 2 overpriced espressos. By the end of the week, it was gone, a $15 million ghost packed neatly into a cashier's check. Funny, right? You spend years stacking bricks of gold around yourself, building walls so high nobody can see your shame, and when you finally open the door, it all evaporates like smoke. I moved into a rental across town. 1 bedroom. Peeling paint. A leak in the bathroom ceiling that dripped a slow, steady rhythm at night like a broken clock. It was perfect. Next came the cars. The Rolls. The Aston Martin. The McLaren that spent more time posing in Instagram selfies than on the actual road. All of them? Sold. Donated. Scrapped. I kept one thing, a battered '99 pickup with a dented side door and a heater that only worked if you smacked it just right. When I drove it, people didn't glance over at traffic lights with a look that said, "What's he got that I don't?" They didn't glance at all. It was the closest thing to freedom I'd ever tasted. I started my campaign of quiet redemption the only way I knew how, one human being at a time. I walked into battered women's shelters with anonymous envelopes. I slipped checks under the broken blinds of low-income clinics that smelled like bleach and despair. I paid off back rent at apartment complexes where the walls were paper-thin and hope was thinner. No one knew it was me. That was the rule. If I had to see my name on a plaque, I wasn't doing it right. It felt good. Cleaner than anything I'd ever bought before. But the thing about cleaning up your mess? The people who liked the old you, the ones who thrived on your dirt, don't appreciate it when you start sweeping up. The first warning came from my lawyer, Victor Garvey. Sharp suits. Sharper teeth. He called while I was eating diner pie at 3 in the afternoon, the booth sticky against my elbow. "You're making people nervous, Caleb," he said, voice slick as oil. Nervous? I stabbed a chunk of cherry pie. "Tell them to buy some Valium. You're liquidating assets. Moving money. Giving it away like candy at Halloween. People are talking." I smiled at my fork. Good. Maybe they'll choke on it. There was a long pause on the line. When he spoke again, his voice had a steel edge to it. "Listen carefully, Caleb. There are contracts. Partnerships. Quiet understandings. You start pulling threads, the whole thing unravels. And if it unravels, it's not just you who goes down." I leaned back in the booth, feeling the fake leather creak. "You threatening me, Vic?" Another pause. More dangerous this time. "Not yet." I hung up. Finished my pie. Left $100 under the plate. When I stepped outside, the afternoon had darkened into something colder. The kind of cold that seeps through your jacket and gnaws at your bones. Across the street, parked half a block down, a black SUV idled with its headlights off. Watching. Waiting. I didn't panic. Not because I wasn't scared, I was. But because I finally understood something. When you build your empire out of broken backs and whispered deals, when you climb to the top by stepping on the faces of better men, there's always someone ready to shove you off the edge the second you slip. And I was slipping hard. The next few weeks were a blur. More donations. More visits to shelters and clinics and schools held together with duct tape and prayers. And more warnings. Anonymous emails. Blocked calls. A rock through the windshield of my pickup with a note attached. "Stop digging." Cute. They didn't understand. I wasn't digging anymore. I was planting. Something ugly was coming. I could feel it like a storm gathering over the horizon, heavy with the weight of old sins. But I wasn't running. Not this time. If they wanted a war, they were about to find out just how dangerous a man with nothing left to lose could be. They came at me sideways. Not with guns. Not yet. No, they used the oldest weapon rich men know, paperwork. Subpoenas rained down like confetti. Breach of contract. Misappropriation of funds. Defamation. They dug up old deals I barely remembered signing. Twisted them like a noose around my neck. Every call from my new lawyer, a young kid named Jenna who wore leather jackets instead of suits, started with a sigh and ended with a bigger pile of bad news. "They're bleeding you slow," she said one morning, tossing a fresh stack of threats on my cracked kitchen table. "Death by 1,000 fees." I didn't flinch. Wasn't the first time someone tried to kill me. Wasn't even the worst. "They're scared," I said, sipping coffee so burned it tasted like regret. "If they weren't, they'd just have me shot." She blinked. Didn't laugh. Meanwhile, the people I was trying to help? Not all of them wanted saving. One night, a man I'd given 3 months' rent to showed up drunk at my door, screaming about how I owed him more. Another time, a woman I paid to finish nursing school tried to sell the scholarship to her cousin. Real kindness? It's messy. It cuts your hands. It stains your shirt. It doesn't look good on Instagram. And somewhere in all of it, the whispers got louder. Caleb's lost it. Midlife crisis. Brain damage from the accident. Old friends started crossing the street when they saw me coming. Business partners froze me out like a contagious disease. I went from being the man everyone envied to the man everyone pitied or worse, hated. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care. The ambush came 2 months in. I was at a charity event. Not the black tie kind. The real kind. Folding chairs. Cold pizza. A raffle prize of a used microwave. I was handing out backpacks filled with school supplies to kids who looked at me like I was Santa Claus. It felt good. It felt real. And then I saw them. 3 men, suits a little too sharp, smiles a little too wide, moving through the crowd like sharks through a reef. At first, I thought maybe they were reporters. Or worse, investors trying to drag me back into the poison pool. But when they closed in, I knew. Trouble. Big trouble. The tallest one stepped forward, flashing a badge that looked just real enough to scare the crowd. Caleb Hartwell? He asked, voice neutral. Depends who's asking, I said, forcing a grin. Federal Investigative Bureau. We need you to come with us. The crowd froze. Mothers clutched their kids tighter. Volunteers backed away like I'd sprouted horns. What's this about? I asked, keeping my voice calm. He didn't blink. Financial crimes. Fraud. Tax evasion. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Loud and ugly. You guys seriously think I'm the criminal? The badge man didn't smile. Sir, if you resist, we'll be forced to escalate. Jenna appeared out of nowhere, sliding between me and them like a knife. You got a warrant, she demanded. They hesitated just a flicker, and that's when I knew. No warrant. No real badge. No real case. This wasn't about law. This was about intimidation. I raised my hand slowly, crowd watching like it was a public execution. I'm not resisting, I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. I'm just asking questions. Then, to Jenna, under my breath, get the kids out of here. She nodded once and peeled off, herding families away like a pro. The badge men realized too late that their audience was vanishing. Their leader stepped closer, lowering his voice. You don't walk away from the life you had, Caleb. People get nervous. I'm already gone, I said, smiling like a man holding dynamite. You just haven't figured it out yet. He leaned in, breath hot with threat. You keep pushing, and next time we don't use lawyers. I met his eyes. Good, I whispered. I'm tired of talking anyway. They left without arresting me. Had to. Too many witnesses. Too many camera phones raised like little shields. But the message was clear. Next time, they'd come harder. Maybe bullets instead of badges. And me? I finally understood what the stakes really were. I wasn't just giving away money. I was blowing up the whole rotten machine. And now the machine was fighting back. The first real betrayal hit 2 days later. It came wrapped in a manila envelope dropped off by a courier who didn't meet my eyes. Inside? Pictures. Me. With Jenna. In the alley behind the shelter. Laughing. Talking close. And then a neat little typewritten sheet. Mr. Hartwell. Thought you'd like to see where your money's been going. She's been selling you out since day one. A friend. At first, I didn't believe it. Couldn't. Jenna? The kid who bailed me out of 100 stupid mistakes these last few months? But when I looked closer, when I traced the shell companies siphoning from the donation accounts, saw the withdrawals in cash, the truth punched me square in the ribs. She'd been skimming. Bleeding me out from inside. I didn't call her. Didn't yell. Didn't throw a chair through a window. I just sat there. Staring at the walls of my crappy apartment, listening to the slow drip 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 of the leak overhead. Funny how betrayal doesn't make a sound when it happens. Only later, when you realize how stupid you were. The second betrayal was quieter. It came from the people I thought I was saving. The woman whose rent I paid? Sued me for emotional distress. The food bank I funded? Leaked my name to the press. The headlines rolled in like sewage over a cracked dam. Disgraced millionaire's charity scheme under investigation. Hero or con artist? The truth about Caleb Hartwell. Fallen philanthropist faces financial ruin. They didn't want me real. They wanted me broken. Neat. Simple. Villain or martyr. Not something messy like human. The money dried up faster than I thought possible. Frozen accounts. Assets seized. A foreclosure notice stapled to my door like a final insult. I pawned the last thing I owned that had any value, a Rolex I hadn't worn since the crash, and used it to keep the food bank open 1 more month. Nobody thanked me. Didn't matter. I wasn't doing it for gratitude. I was doing it because somewhere along the line, I started believing people could be better than me. Started believing I could be better than me. One night, broke and tired and one bad decision away from giving up, I found myself back at the crash site. Mile marker 87. A jagged bend in the highway where the guardrail still bore the twisted scars of my wreck. It was raining again. Hard. Sheets of cold slicing through the dark. I stood there, dripping and shaking, staring at the spot where my life had broken open like a dropped wine glass. A voice inside me, not loud, not screaming, just a tired whisper said, "You could just step into the road. End it clean." And for one long, hollow minute I thought about it. Not because I wanted to die, but because I didn't know how to keep living like this. Shattered. Alone. A punchline in a story no one even cared about anymore. And then, headlights. A beat-up station wagon slowed to a crawl. A kid leaned out the window, maybe 8 years old, red baseball cap twisted sideways, missing a front tooth, and yelled, "Hey, mister. You okay?" I blinked. Swallowed hard. I gave the kid a thumbs up. He grinned like it was Christmas morning and waved wildly as the car disappeared into the rain. That stupid, messy, beautiful grin punched through the dark like a battering ram. I stood there for a long time after the car was gone, rain running down my face in rivers. Not crying. Just breathing. Choosing. You don't burn it all down because you hate the world. You burn it down because you finally understand. You were building the wrong damn thing to begin with. The choice was made on that wet, black ribbon of highway. If I was going down, I was taking the bastards with me. It started the next morning. No plan. No backup. No bright shining moment of clarity. Just an address. One I'd found tucked into the courier envelope almost like they wanted me to find it. A cocky little breadcrumb thinking I was too broken to chase it. They didn't understand yet. The broken ones? We fight the dirtiest. The building was a corporate shell, glass and steel, clean lines, no soul. Inside? My old life, pulsing like a cancer. Former partners. Lawyers. Private security wearing cheap suits and cheaper smiles. And at the center of it all, Leonard Black. The man who used to toast me with $500 whiskey while we gutted companies and called it synergy. He was waiting in the conference room. Alone. Of course. He always did love the drama. "You look like hell," Leonard said, flashing that shark grin that made investors hand over fortunes and sleep like babies. "You look like a lawsuit waiting to happen," I shot back, closing the door behind me. The air between us crackled, thick with old blood and fresh venom. "I tried to be reasonable, Caleb," he said, steepling his fingers. "But you chose martyrdom. You chose whatever this is." I leaned across the table. Close enough to smell his cologne, something expensive and choking like regret bottled and sold at a markup. "I chose humanity," I said. He laughed short, sharp. "Real? You think you're saving people? You're just giving them enough rope to hang themselves. Better than selling them the noose," I snapped. The truth spilled out fast after that. Leonard had orchestrated everything. The lawsuits. The fake investigators. Even Jenna's betrayal, she'd been blackmailed into it, her sick brother's hospital bills held hostage like a loaded gun. He didn't want me dead. Not really. Dead men can be turned into martyrs. He wanted me ruined. Discredited. Forgotten. A warning to anyone else thinking about leaving the golden herd. "You think you're different," Leonard said, voice low and oily. "But you're not. You're just another rich boy with a savior complex. And you're out of time." Maybe he was right. Maybe the old me would have folded right then. Apologized. Signed whatever blood contract he slid across the table. Crawled back into the velvet coffin they built for people like us. But the man who wrecked on mile marker 87? He died already. This was someone new. I stood up slowly. Tossed a flash drive onto the polished mahogany like a grenade. Leonard frowned. Picked it up. "What's this?" "Proof," I said. "Every offshore account. Every shady deal. Every laundering scheme you thought was invisible." His face paled just a flicker, but I saw it. "You don't have that," he said, voice tightening. I smiled, slow and savage. "I had a lot of time while you were busy trying to bury me. Because here's the thing. You can't dig a grave for a man who already climbed out of his own." The FBI, the real one this time, stormed the building 30 minutes later. Turns out, when you hand-deliver enough evidence to make a RICO case look like a slam dunk, people start paying attention. Leonard went quietly. Too smart for dramatics. But as they cuffed him, he met my eyes one last time, not with rage. With pity. "You think this changes anything?" he said, voice low enough no one else heard. "You can't fix the rot, Caleb. You're just a prettier corpse." Maybe he was right. But at least I'd be a corpse that went down swinging. Outside, the city buzzed like a fresh wound. The pickup waited where I'd left it, dented and noble. I climbed behind the wheel, heart hammering, hands shaking. Not with fear. With something dangerous. Hope. I didn't expect a parade. Didn't expect a thank you note. Didn't expect anything, really. Leonard and his cronies went down, but the machine kept humming. New vultures circled. New deals were made. The city forgot about me faster than yesterday's scandal. But that was fine. Hell, it was better. Because freedom, real freedom, isn't loud. It's quiet. It's waking up in a crummy apartment that smells like burnt toast and cheap soap and realizing you don't owe anyone a damn thing anymore. I started over. Not with millions. Not with mansions. With something simpler. I bought a little building on the east side, brick cracked, windows busted, roof leaking like a busted faucet. Took everything I had left. Every penny. Turned it into a shelter. No red tape. No judgment. Just a warm meal, a bed, and a door that stayed open no matter what ugly mess came crawling through it. I named it Mile 87. People asked why. I never told them. Some stories you hold close. Like a scar you don't mind showing but never explain. The days were long. The nights longer. I cooked meals I barely knew how to cook. Fixed leaky pipes with duct tape and prayers. Sat up with drunks detoxing and teenagers crying and veterans shaking from wars they couldn't leave behind. Sometimes it was beautiful. Sometimes it was hell. But it was real. It was mine. One night, late, the door creaked open. A boy, maybe 9, skinny as a whisper, stepped inside. Shaggy hair? Torn sneakers. A backpack clutched to his chest like it was armor. I put down the mop I was using to battle the endless tide of dirty floors. "You hungry?" I asked. He nodded, eyes wide and hollow. I ladled out soup, canned, cheap, steaming like a miracle, and slid it across the counter. He grabbed it with both hands like it might vanish if he blinked. "Name's Caleb," I said, offering my hand across the battered counter. He stared at it for a second, then shook. "Jesse," he said, voice small but steady. Later, after he ate and curled up on a donated mattress under a threadbare blanket, I sat in the office, a broom closet pretending to be something grander, and stared out the cracked window. The city stretched beyond, dirty and bright and indifferent. I thought about Leonard's last words. "You can't fix the rot." Maybe he was right. Maybe the rot was too deep. Maybe the machine just built new monsters as fast as you could tear them down. But Jesse? That kid sleeping 5 feet away, safe and warm for the first time in God knows how long? He wasn't a machine. He was a beginning. And beginnings? They matter. Even if no one writes your name on a plaque. Even if no statue ever gets carved. Even if no one remembers you but the people you loved better than you found them. I leaned back, listening to the soft, broken rhythm of a city still learning how to breathe. And for the first time in my entire selfish, blood-stained, ridiculous life, I felt clean. Not perfect. Not forgiven. Just clean. Life doesn't hand out redemption. You have to carve it out yourself. With bleeding hands and broken teeth. And when you do, it's not flashy. It's not fireworks. It's a bowl of soup. A warm bed. A hand held out in the dark. It's a boy named Jesse sleeping without fear. It's deciding, one brutal day at a time, to build something better than the ruins you left behind. It's knowing you're never too broken to start again. Even if you start with nothing. Even if you start with less than nothing. Even if all you've got left is a mile marker on a forgotten stretch of road. And the stubborn, reckless belief that it still matters.